all happening, you know.
Wow.
Yeah. We've made some progress with the roof and, you know, solar. So I feel like I'm too far away. I am. Oh.
We're way too far away to reach that. I want you to look at the ring I bought at Santa Barbara Mission.
Ooh.
It's got the Lord's Prayer.
Are you kidding me?
No.
This is really cool. I've never seen anything like that.
Neither had I.
Oh, that's fantastic. Hi, Helen.
Oh, she's here.
She's here. That is too cool. That's really cool.
And it was cheap. And it
Cheap and cool.
And it didn't turn my face green.
Yeah.
Oh, we do have a little heat in here, don't we?
Yes,
I
oh,
told
yeah.
Grace about
Oh,
where
we're
we're at
spraying
the
for
home,
heat.
just in
Oh, yeah.
case.
Come in.
It's a first class operation.
Judy,
No, this is no.
Thank you.
Well,
I
yeah.
my brother's book. How's everything?
You're talking about what a wonderful time you must be
I
having.
know. But I came to church on Sunday.
But I'm so excited
Oh,
to
did
finally
you?
get it done. Oh,
You didn't
The
get
book.
it?
No,
I
and I
promised him on his
usually
deathbed I published all
So
the
I
stories.
I'm sure my
Wow.
He's
name is
wonderful,
back.
he really is good, and he spent, it's 27 stories about his days as a mounted policeman in New York City.
Oh, nice.
And 27
Oh.
stories on World War II when he was in the final battle on Okinawa.
Oh, wow.
And how he thought, and everybody else in his squadron thought they were all going home. But his particular squadron was sent to Beijing. Well,
Yeah, you can,
yeah.
So the book
Wow.
is finished.
It's finished, oh, we got
Good
it
for you.
together, I
can't
got
wait to
it.
see it.
Oh, it's good, it's good.
Well, I'm glad everyone's here. As I mentioned, Karen Johnson is at a funeral for a friend who died suddenly, so she couldn't make it. But here we are. I don't know if anyone else is coming. I know people are watching, but thousands are watching. That's all. Anyway, here we are. We're at the point now where we're taking a look at St. Paul and who he was as a person and his conversion to Christianity and his contribution to shaping our ideas of what is the importance of the death of Jesus and the resurrection. Big ticket items. So why don't we start with a question that I just do this because I want to share my nightmares with you. See if you could have something.
Today's the 20th.
It might be. Yep.
Yes, it is.
4th of July. Anyway, let me just ask you. When you read the Bible, and I know I come at this many different ways, but when you read the Bible, is it all of equal value?
I don't know what.
I don't read it.
It says right here, it says right here, the Holy Bible. Is all of it holy? All of it?
Well, a lot of it's just a story.
It may be inspired by,
Yes.
I don't really think, I don't think of the Old Testament as being relevant to my lifestyle because it doesn't have Jesus' words in it.
So you put Jesus' words in a
Above.
different category.
I put that
Okay.
sort of above everything.
Yeah, okay.
What
I
he
do too,
said,
by the way.
what he taught, I think is my Christian belief.
Okay.
And all of that Leviticus and all of that sad, bad stuff they did and everything, and all those laws, I don't pay any attention to those.
It's adiaphora.
What is it again?
You're welcome. Adiaphora.
I
things of little account.
Yeah.
How everybody's different on this score, by the way, right? Because we're going to head into St. Paul in a minute. Is it all of this? When St. Paul writes in one of his epistles, don't forget my coat. I left it at your house. Mm-hmm. Is that of the same value as the words of Christ on the cross? You put those, you line those up and say, yep, then they are of the same value. These are important things because in this day and age, well, it's always been like this. That's not quite true. Well, I'll finish my statement. In this day and age, people quote the Bible as if everything is of the same value. When you think about, when you hear the word, I am a conservative Christian, that's relatively new. Maybe a couple hundred years old. There was no fundamentalists, let's say, 250 years ago. They weren't around. Reading the Bible, literally, is pretty new. A lot of people don't know that. The Bible has been read anecdotally. It's been read as far as from a more of a literary point of view, I would say, in its initial stages. It has not been read. This is what it says, therefore it's true. That's right. That's new. Fundamentalism is new.
A lot of people read it.
Yeah, and they do, but it's new. They think that it's always been like that. That's not true. It's not true. This is new. And then it was solidified by something called the Princeton School, Princeton Seminary, where it was far more fundamentalistically read. Let's put it that way. Read with, in I would say, a very clumsy, literalistic way. It's new. It's just like, what we run on, not communism, but the other one. I'm kind of...
Socialism?
We're not socialists, we're not communists, we believe in capitalism. Capitalism is new. It's new. So, again, started about 250 years ago-ish. Maybe 1600s at the kind of the latest. It's new. For thousands of years before that, it was not capitalism. But we think that it is because that's the water we swim in. And the same is true for a lot of people that go to church. They think we can read the Bible literalistically, and that's the right way to do it. It's not, and it's new. So that's why you have educated clergy, so you know the history, right? So we're not hoodwinked by this stuff.
But there's parts of the Old Testament, like the 23rd Psalm.
Right, you gonna get rid of that?
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't do that.
And I find it interesting too, because I go to Shabbat Shalom on Fridays at the Fountains. And the 23rd Psalm is part of the service.
Yeah, fantastic.
And there's like the Lord's Prayer. It's
right.
Almost.
Yeah, it has a similar feel,
Yeah.
right? And even if you wanted to, and I'll be preaching about this in Genesis. My sermon's on Genesis, first chapter, on Sunday. So how do you frame that up in terms of value? I would say the 23rd Psalm is pretty valuable. I wouldn't want to give that up, right? I wouldn't want to give up Genesis. I wouldn't. Well, that's Jesus. That's Jesus.
Oh, okay.
Right? Yeah, that's why we do this together. Excuse me. Snorting. It's pretty funny. Yeah, I don't want to give up Genesis. I don't want to give up Exodus. I don't want to give up the Psalms. I don't want to give up the wisdom literature. I don't want to give up the book of Job. I don't want to give up the prophets.
I don't think we're supposed to give anything up. We're supposed to do the whole thing. But I thought your question was, is that as important?
Is that of the same value?
Of the same value. I think
Right.
to some people, it's of even more value. You mean, we got the Jewish people, and that is their value.
Of
that's
course.
their thing. And I think for us, there's so much background leading up to Jesus, and so many stories in there that lead us to what's
Right.
going to be.
And why he had it come.
Right. So,
I think it's all very important, and it's holy, but to me, the most important thing is Jesus and his teaching.
Okay,
But I didn't mean the other, I would throw it out.
right. I'd throw some of it out. But anyway, even Martin Luther said the book of James in the New Testament is just an epistle of straw, he called it. He hated that book. Anyway, so I don't know if this has been useful in the past for you or not. It's been useful for me. When I look at the Old Testament, for instance, I see it as a coal mine that has a thread of gold running through it. So for me, Leviticus, coal. But Genesis, Exodus, the Psalms, wisdom literature, 90% of it, there's gold in them, there are hills, right? And like Judy said, these things, for Christians at least, they point to Jesus, right? You can see it. If you're a follower of Jesus, Jewish people would say we're nuts, of course, maybe they're right. But, if you read these things in the Old Testament, you can't, you read Isaiah, his messianic passages, you can't help but say, this sounds like somebody I know, right? So here we go. So, but then there's a value issue. I think we're going to get to St. Paul in a minute, but in this vein, we talk about. Maybe I'm the only one that talks. I don't think I am. A Christocentric hermeneutic is welcome to my world. A Christocentric hermeneutic. In other words, we try to read the Bible. I do, let's say. I'll just own it. I try to read the Bible through a Christocentric hermeneutic. In other words, Jesus is the star of the Bible. Jesus is, right? You can take out different people out of the Bible, you never miss them. You cannot take him out, right? It's like the movie Patton, and you take Patton out of it. You can't do it. So and I think he is the most important figure in the book. Would you agree with that? Right? I do. I've made that commitment as far as a reader. This is the person that this book is really about, the central character. So then what I do is I have a Christocentric hermeneutic. I read the Bible, all of it, through that person's life and teaching, death and resurrection. That's how I do it. So when I read Leviticus, I'll say, okay, I'll take it with a grain of salt, because he did. If I think about a hot topic, I don't know how hot it is anymore, homosexuality, for instance. How often does Jesus talk about homosexuality? Zero. And so if it's not important to him, let's take it with a grain of salt. It's of a different value than what Jesus. Jesus certainly knew about homosexuality. He worked in a Roman town. That's where he was a carpenter. Yeah, when he lived in Galilee, but he worked in a town right next door. Right, that's where he worked. Yeah, is that me? It sounds like me. All right, so is that clear as mud now? So what is the value of this? And I think ministers have really done poor service for their people not to talk about this, because you never hear it. You never hear it. I have never once heard a minister talk about this, and it's terribly important.
Things they should talk about.
Well, and other things that they shouldn't be doing. But yeah, I mean, we lost 15,000 churches in this country last year, and most of them, I think, deserved it.
Sure.
They're not working. They're not doing it, in my opinion. Anyway, so we go back to this value question. Okay. And now, if you like Jesus, for instance, and you like what he did and what he said, and maybe not liked it, but you want to follow it as best you can, you're going to be a follower of Jesus as best you can. Good luck with that, because it's not so easy. I don't find him easy to follow. But I'll try it. Try. Then we get to this other person, St. Paul, who is a titan in the Bible. And then I will apply that same question to Paul. Is he of the same stature and value? What he says is what he says the same value and stature of Jesus? No. That's what I say. So I'm going to take him with a little bit of a grain of salt. He did not, St. Paul, I mean, he's fantastic, I think. You can't get rid of him. You shouldn't. I mean, he's terribly important, let's put it that way. However, St. Paul of Tarsus did not die and rise again from the dead. If he did, I'd pay more attention to him. Do you see where I'm going with this?
Yes.
Right? So
he's trying to usurp, he's trying to put forth his opinions over Christ.
no,
Take over the church.
Paul isn't, but Christian people that go to church, let's say, people that go to church will put Paul and Jesus on the same plane, and I think that is an error. Bad idea.
Well, they'll quote St. Paul's writings in the Bible that are not for women, and if they want to put women down or anything like that, they can quote St. Paul.
That's right.
And say what the Bible says.
The Bible
And
said.
they've done it many times. Many of them quoting that.
For a lot of different things. Slavery was like that, women's issues, homosexuality, on and on. St. Paul they'll quote and leave Jesus kind of, he can die for our sins, but as long as he keeps his mouth shut, kind of thing. Which I think that is a terrible error that the church has promulgated over the centuries, and they're still doing it.
They've done that?
Because they hate people.
Because they want to.
They hate people.
True.
That's why they do it. And there's also often a profit motive underneath that. You can manipulate the Bible to say whatever you want. But if you're quoting Jesus, you're going to have a hard time doing that, because Jesus is going to say, love your enemies. Who wants to do that? And many other things. Blessed are the poor. Blessed are those who grieve. Blessed are the meek. Blessed are the, that's Matthew 5. Who wants to do that? That thins out the herd, right? But they'll quote St. Paul. They'll quote the Old Testament, of course. And it becomes a horror story, their vision of Christianity. And it's very similar to Sharia law with the Muslims. It's very similar to the KKK, right? That's what it sounds like. As soon as you pull Jesus out of the center of this thing, you got trouble, in my view. So,
I think that's what's wrong with the Christian church today.
yeah, right, I do too.
Especially in the fundamentalist church.
That's right.
Because they believe more in those Leviticus and all those other writers,
Guys,
Bible writers than they do
Right.
in
That's
Christ's words. They don't even know Christ's words, I don't think.
No, you want to
They
get,
need a red letter Bible and say, stick to that for a while.
well, you know, the value of Jesus is with his death and resurrection. If you believe that that happened, therefore you will go to heaven. And that's the end of that. We don't want to listen to what he's got to say, and we don't want to pay attention to what he's done in his 3-year ministry, I would say. We don't want to do that, because that sounds like liberal political stuff. That sounds like socialism. That sounds like communism. And we don't go for that. We don't go for that. So this is all sort of prolegomena, this sort of introduction to Paul, and just how do you approach this. By the way, I was hammered by this discussion for years by my teachers, to the point, hammered. You're going to get it again and again and again and again.
handed into you.
Pounded into me and us. Yeah, it was unending. For years this happened. For years I went through this. So I'm just giving you like 20 minutes.
So they were teaching you,
What you just heard from me. Yeah. I didn't come up with this myself. This has been taught to me. Over and over and over and over and over. Yeah.
And how did your fellow students feel about it?
Some of them just dropped out. They would say, that's not the Christianity I know, and they left.
that it's not Christianity.
Yeah, they left. Yeah. So as soon as you start messing with this, people get pretty excited.
I think it's exciting if someone even talks about the Bible at church. No, every church I have ever gone to,
They don't.
they don't.
Right.
They don't. They don't talk about anything but nonsense.
Well, this is
It's
what.
been crazy.
Well, this is what we
That's
call.
why I'm here.
Well, good. That's why I'm here too, because you guys put up with it. But this is what we call hermeneutics. How do you read this thing? And I mean, you can transfer that question to how do you read a person? How do you read the newspaper? How do you read the events of history unfolding today? How do you read that? How do you understand it? And then the Bible included. Anything. How do you read anything? How do you look at yourself in the mirror and read that? You know, who is that really that you're looking at? How do you read our own lives? I mean, I think it's terribly exciting, but it's not so easy to do. Right? You got to want to read it and be.
Well, don't you think at first the churches, people didn't read the Bible? I mean, when they started out with having churches, and so the leaders of the church interpreted what the Bible said, and they were never given the Bibles to read. I don't think I've ever seen a real Bible in a Catholic church. Do they have Bibles
No.
in a Catholic?
Well, they don't have them in the pew.
That's what I mean. You
No.
can't just
Right.
pick one up somewhere and read it.
No.
But they read it from the pulpit. They'll read a verse
They
or
do?
two.
I don't know.
Well, they'll read
A little bit, yeah.
Reading,
They have the first
reading.
reading, they have the
Yeah.
second reading, and then they have the gospel.
Yeah, it's lectionary. It's the lectionary
Yeah,
passages.
lectionary.
That's what we do.
Such a habit
Yeah.
that I could tell you with the old priest that when I was a kid,
Yeah.
we used to make fun of him because he'd say, well, he'd always start the mass exactly the same way. And he never explained anything, so no one knew what he was talking about
I know.
anyway.
Yeah.
It was awful.
See, I had so many good teachers that
You're lucky.
explained it and explained it and explained it. As I said, for years this went on. At least 15 years. At least that long.
You were lucky.
It was really intense and, and really talented teachers.
Most churches didn't get that training you got.
Right, I know that. I
Or
know.
else
I
they
know.
didn't want that training.
Right, yeah, we don't want that. Yeah. Well, we want, give me your mother's sugar cookie recipe. That's what most. Forgive me for that,
Easier
but
for them to understand that.
yeah, just don't give me anything. I'm here. Right, yeah. But that's the American church in general.
When I went to St. Joseph's and Father O'Connor had just come there, I used to sit in the same pew every week. And then one day, I looked at his newsletter. I jumped out of my chair and I walked out. And when I walked out, I met him. And he said, Grace, you're not staying for Mass. I said, no, you don't allow me to. He said, what do you mean? I said, you're condemning Galileo? No, it was about stem cell. I said, did you forget what they did to Galileo? They wanted to hang him.
Yeah,
They
right.
put him in exile. I should be put in exile in that town, let me tell you. I said,
Yeah.
and
Science.
then he
Yeah.
changed the following week. It was always something a little more meaningful.
Yeah, okay.
And he changed that.
Yeah, okay.
And I think
Yeah.
people don't listen.
Well, the church has been against science.
Oh,
That's
forget
another,
science,
that's a
that's
problem.
ridiculous.
Yeah, it's been a real problem. Anyway, well, let's talk, do we know St. Paul? Do we?
Well, you have described him several.
Yeah, well, what do you know? What can you tell us about St. Paul?
I always think about him. First, he was Saul, who was very
That's a Jewish thing,
cruel
too.
to the Christians and
Yeah.
wanted to get rid of them, I guess. And
Yeah.
then he was on the road to Damascus and had this reckoning, what do you call it?
Kind of a vision of,
Yeah,
an epiphanetic moment.
His horse. He got knocked off.
Yeah, knocked off his horse.
With a light
yeah,
and I had this conversion. That's what I was thinking.
yeah,
He had a
conversion of
complete
St. Paul.
Conversion from this being anti-people, I should
Mm-hmm.
say, to a Christian because he realized it was Christ, I guess.
Christ came to him,
Yeah.
said, Saul, Saul, why are you
And
persecuting me?
this is real. you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
And then he became a follower and a leader
Mm-hmm.
and wrote all these letters to a lot of letters to the churches that
okay,
teaching them.
great, very good. What qualifications, how could he pull that off? That's a lot. I mean, Peter couldn't pull it off, he's a fisherman. Right? I mean, he wrote, he wrote a little bit, he wrote a couple of epistles. But it's Paul that
It's always quoted.
wrote like crazy.
He was a scholar.
He was a scholar, and what constitutes that? Who is this guy? I mean, did he go to Oxford? Did he go to Harvard? What made him that?
He
You know,
doesn't have much background, does he?
a little bit.
What is it?
He studied with Gamaliel, who was the teacher in Israel. He was Gamaliel's student. So he would have almost nearly memorized the Old Testament. He knew not just the Old Testament, but the Haggadah and the Halakha, the commentaries that were written. In his head, he would have all this. He would have had a tremendous memory. He would have been able to. I mean, most people are linear thinkers, right? You go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. There are a few people that are Gestalt thinkers.
They're creative.
They think like a wheel. And so the spokes can go, you don't have to go 1, 2, 3, 4. You can go here to use, you're thinking like a wheel. There's spokes. So you can go here, 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 here. Right? You see, if you've ever heard people say, he sees the board or she sees the board. You talk that way with chess sets. You see the board, all of it. You know all the moves. All the moves. And how it, it could go, it's not 1, 2, 3, 4. It's this, right? Or 3-dimensional chess even. Or you're playing on 3 boards at one time. Anyway, that's Saul, the Jewish Pharisee. He's not a pro, by the way. He's a Pharisee. Pharisees are lay persons. Did you know that? He's not a priest. He's a Pharisee. The priests get to go into the temple and make a sacrifice in the Holy of Holies. He's not doing that.
So he wasn't a rabbi then?
He was a teacher,
Yes.
but he wasn't a priest.
And they say he was a teacher.
You see the difference? I mean, there's priests, Pharisees, Sadducees, and so on, right? He's a lay person who is an expert with Jewish law and theology and history and probably philosophy. He's got all that in his head, right? I mean, when you think of it, he's got this in his head. So he's been studying with Gamaliel for years and years, and he is a very strict Jewish adherent. Okay? This is during the time of the Roman occupation. Same time, so they're being occupied by a foreign power. I'm glad we don't do that. So they're oppressed, and that typically will create a overreaction. We see that in our country too. People are overreacting. You see it all the time. He's doing that. And now Jesus has happened. Most scholars will say he did not meet Jesus. I find that hard to believe. Jerusalem's not that big, right? It's not, it's not like going to Tokyo. It's little, right? It's little, and just geographically, it's little. It's smaller than New York City. I think maybe he either he met Jesus, heard him, or definitely heard about him. You can't not hear about this.
Why wouldn't he want to? Why would he go out of his way to meet him?
Like Nicodemus. He meets Jesus at night, right? We gotta know this. Yeah, he's shocking what Jesus is doing. And people by the thousands are following him, right? This is while Saul, is a Jewish person, right? This is in the air all over the place. Okay?
Well, when he was on the road to Damascus and had this conversion, God actually spoke to him.
Right.
And said, Saul, why do you persecute me?
Right.
Why are you persecuting me? I mean, he had actually had a conversation
Yes.
with God or Christ.
Yeah, well, who are you? It's Jesus who you are persecuting.
Who are you?
Yeah.
You're persecuting me.
Right.
Why?
Why? So.
And I think that would turn somebody around if you got
Certainly
knocked
get your
off.
attention.
That
If
didn't
you
turn
got
me
knocked
It would
down,
get my attention.
Yeah,
It would get mine too.
I think that was a good reason he certainly did the flip,
Yeah. Yeah. And prior to that, that's right. So he's got this event in his life, an epiphanetic event. So he's got this event, but prior to that, he's trying to kill this thing off. So people are coming to Jesus. They're becoming Jesus people, not just Jewish people. Now they're Jewish Jesus people. And he's the Messiah. He's the Christ. He's the Messiah. They're going with Jesus because of the because of the resurrection. Because of because of the resurrection, not just the crucifixion. As important as both of them go together, I think. But because of the resurrection, their Jewish believers are going with Jesus. Saul wants to kill that off. Right? You see that all the time around the world, throughout history. If you get a hopeful movement, it will often be followed by persecution. You want to kill this thing off. Right? You can read history. That's one way to read history. Is hope.
Why don't read today?
Well, we're doing it now, right? Of course, right.
Same thing right now.
Well, you can count on it. If something's hopeful, watch out, because there will follow something that will want to kill that off. We see it in families. You might see it in your own life. We try to sabotage ourselves. Things are going great. We try to kill it. And Paul is the center character to do that when the church first gets started. So the very first martyr is a person by the name of Stephen. He gives a sermon. They hate it. A sermon about Jesus. They hate it. Saul is there. Right? He's an older man. He's bow-legged, and we have some descriptions by others of what he looked like. He was bald, had a big nose, and was bow-legged and short. That's the yeah. We have some descriptions of him outside of the Bible, the people that met him, right? So, and mean as a snake, So when Stephen, he's the first deacon in the church. He gives a sermon, and there are Jewish leaders listening to him. They hate it. Saul is there in that gathering. Saul is there. He's a little bit older. They decide the religious leaders, people like me, decide to stone Stephen to death. When you stone someone, which is very rare, by the way, even though it seems like they're doing it all the time, very, very rare, you're not stoning him with a stone. You're stoning someone with a stone. You're smashing them to pieces, is what they're doing. So Paul is a little older. That's he's a little maybe out of shape a little bit. I'm not picking up a stone like that and throwing it at Stephen, right? I'm not doing it. So what can he do? I'll hold your coats, so you can really wind up and toss him. And they do. They kill him. They kill Stephen. They stone him to death. So, and Saul is there holding everybody's coat. You see who had number 5? We have number 7. He's the coat guy. So that's what's happening before he is
Switched.
He is vicious.
So he was older when he had this conversion.
Yeah.
I had envisioned him being a young guy.
No, he's a little bit older. He's a little bit older.
Middle age, like 40s.
Yeah, maybe something like that. He's single, which is weird. A man of his age, Jesus too, by the way, they're single men. That's odd. Your average Jewish person living in that time frame, meeting Paul and Jesus, it's like, what's going on here? They would question it. Why are you single? What's going on here? Well, I can tell you that some translators or some biblical people would say they're single because they're gay. Right? They would go that far. I don't know. But like Peter's married. Their disciples a lot of them are married. But if you're single and in your 30s, that would people would notice that.
What was the lifespan then? Must have been enough.
Not great, I don't think. less for women because of childbirth. Of course, childbirth. So it's kind of interesting later on, Paul, when he changes his name, when you go through a big event in the Bible, often there will be a name change, and that's true for Saul too. He becomes Paul. And he meets this woman later on by the name of Lydia. Do you know that story?
No.
And he meets this. So he's on his missionary journeys. He's heading out now as a Christian, going from community to community, right around the Horn of the Mediterranean. So he's going to all these little cities, mostly in Turkey now, present-day Turkey. And he goes to this one town, and he's always getting in trouble. He's talking about Jesus and to anybody that will listen. And he goes down to the well, and this woman is there by the name of Lydia. And he witnesses to her about Jesus. She goes, "Yeah, bring it on. I love this guy. I like it." And it turns out that she's makes purple linens, which means she deals with Millbrook people, wealthy people, right? Purple is for the wealthy, of course. Well, that's why I dress as I do, country chic. And so she goes, "Well, come on home and you talk to my household." She's single. We don't know anything about her husband. A lot of people think that she's a widow, but she knows how to deal with people with money and power.
Good for her.
Yeah, she's fabulous. So when he goes to her home, she says, "Well, everybody in my household," which means servants, kids, everybody under the roof, we're all going to be Christians. But she does it. I and my household, not the man. It's Lydia making these. Lydia is really something. So Paul, likes this a lot. This is weird for Paul. And so he stays there with the boys, which is also kind of like, what? You're staying at Lydia's place? That's odd for single men to be staying with single women in her house. You see how, sometimes when you step back a little bit with the Bible, it's odd what's going on here. And he will go back to her house, too. If I were to make a movie, I would make it about Lydia and Paul. Yeah. Well, it's in the book of Acts. So there's something going on there. I don't know if it's romantic or whatever, but they definitely click. Those two click. And she becomes a very important person in that brand new church in that town. So.
A leader, really?
Absolute leader, yeah, and you could see why.
Yeah.
She's already a leader,
Right.
as a business person. But that's a really fascinating story. I love that story, and so that's partly St. Paul. The last thing, how we doing? We're doing great. The last thing I want to talk about today is theology. Without St. Paul, we have very limited theology from the Bible. Very limited. What I mean by that is Paul takes his Jewish learning from Gamaliel, knows the Old Testament, knows theology and the Haggadah and Halakha and all that, the interpretations, and he then applies that to Jesus. And that's why we get these. St. Paul supplies us with the so what of Jesus. Great. He lived, he healed people, he taught, he embraced people, he died, he rose again. Who cares? Paul is the one that says, this is why we care. This is why it matters. Forever. for all persons, forever. This is why it matters. It's because of this. It's because, there are a number of things, but the biggest one is Jesus dies and rises again so you don't have to die. You are covered like a sacrifice. See, we don't do sacrifice anymore like they did in the temple at that time. What would happen is people would come to the temple and they'd bring a dove, or they'd bring maybe a sheep if they could afford it, or some kind of animal that doesn't have a blemish on it. It's as perfect an animal as you can have. You bring that animal to the temple to be sacrificed for you. It's atonement. So in other words, God will take out his wrath or judgment or whatever onto the animal and not to you. Well, St. Paul would say, well, that's what Jesus did for all of us. He's the animal. He's the sacrificial lamb that was sacrificed, crucified on the cross, so you don't have to.
Yeah.
That's Paul. That's the brilliance of St. Paul theologically. He makes that theological transfer, and that is the heart of Christianity. Does that make sense? You've heard all that before, right?
No,
You've not heard this before.
I haven't.
Okay. Well, I'm glad I'm still breathing and I have a contract here.
When they quit doing the
Not like that?
Not
sacrifices,
necessarily.
because Jesus was the sacrifice.
Here is the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world.
Took away
Yeah, that's right.
all the sins. And that's another thing about a lot of the fundamentalist churches. They think you don't have that.
You don't have one.
Right, it's already
You
done.
don't have that.
Yeah, right.
That forgiveness from God because of that. They don't seem to believe it.
Well, if you don't believe that,
You
then
have your own conversion.
That's
like,
right.
Like Saul.
Right.
had.
It's already been
You gotta
done.
have some kind of lightning
Right.
flashing. I'm converted, and
well, now you're
And they used to scare
Okay,
me
we
to
got it.
death when I was a child.
Right.
I would hear those.
believe on the Lord Jesus Christ, and you shall be saved. If you don't, you're going to hell. Now,
Yeah,
this is
that's
Tom
right.
Feet. This isn't, so take this with a grain of salt. But Karl Barth, for instance, who they don't like, it's a theologian I did a lot of reading. He's a really famous theologian in the 20th century. He was called a nascent universalist because of that. Jesus died for our sins, all of us, whether you believe it or not. Now, people would say, well, that's so you can do whatever you want. Jesus is going to get you into heaven no matter what kind of person you are. It's terrible. He held it. He hung on to that. And he would say that two things. One is, you'll probably have a seat in heaven. You might be embarrassed because of the way you lived. But the other is that why would you not want to receive it? I mean, it's grace. It's good news. Why wouldn't you want to grab it? Earlier the better, And I always like that. I've always liked that. So that doesn't take away that Jesus died for all. All. Period. And so the church has debated this. Did he mean all, except for those that haven't said yes to Jesus, or those that never heard about it, those living in Kathmandu, you're not going to hear about it. So all those people, babies, are they're all going to go to hell because they didn't hear about it or know about it or whatever. And, Karl Barth would say, that's ridiculous because Christ's death and resurrection is for all, and we're not kidding. Whether you want to appropriate it is a different matter. But your nameplate is already at the table. Does that make sense? It's that's a more radical view. That's the one I have.
And I want to be worthy of it.
Well, of course.
That's why,
That's the gratitude, right? You want to respond to it.
yeah.
Of course. Yeah, yeah. You sound like Karl Barth.
Anyway,
Well, we don't deserve God's grace, but we still want to respond to it. We want to be,
We want to go to heaven.
we want to be grateful, don't you? I mean, are you a sociopath? Do you know what I mean? Most people want to be grateful. They want to respond with gratitude. I do as much as I can. But it's a free gift of grace. The death and resurrection of Christ. It's free and it's for everyone. And of course you don't deserve it. Who would? And that's St. Paul too. You can't earn this. It's a free gift of grace. What's happened? All you can do is respond with gratitude. That's all you can do. And want to be a part of it.
I always wondered.
I love that stuff.
That I can remember back in churches in the South, they would say, oh, have you been saved?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
All this being saved
Yeah.
things. Have you been saved?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2,000 years ago.
That's right.
We were
It
all
happened.
saved.
If we
accept it, that's all. It's not,
Well, we're all saved whether you accept it or not. It's all done.
But that was a question I was thought, what do they mean? And then I realized they meant there's some conversion or something that's supposed to happen.
It's up to you
Yeah.
to make it real. It's
Yeah.
up to you. I reject
They have
that.
nothing
I
to
reject
do with
that.
it. I
No.
do too.
No.
But I used to worry about it. I mean,
Catholics
it's
don't
almost
worry
like
about it.
it's
Well, of
almost
course.
like it's kind of a putting some fear into.
Well, of course.
I
Well,
mean,
of course that's what it
Which
is.
is not.
Yeah.
I don't think Christ ever said anything about making people very afraid of you.
The whole-
It's not a good thing.
We're talking about good news.
Yeah.
did Christ hear confessions?
Well, throughout the Gospels, he's hearing people what they did, right? He knew already with a lot of.
Exactly.
He already knows what's going on. There's a number of stories like that. I don't
Doesn't
think.
it say in the Bible, confess to one another?
Yeah, that too. Yeah, be together.
But
Yeah,
not too many people want to do that.
yeah. Well, I just did.
I went to the Jubilee,
Well, the Jubilee.
and if you did what they said in Rome,
Yeah,
then all your sins were washed away.
Uh-huh. Well, thank you, boss.
What can I tell you?
Right, well,
They were already washed
That's
away
right.
before you went to the Jubilee.
Yeah, but they made a lot of money, like
Like in the
35,000
Catholic
people there.
You have to confess to take communion.
right.
But Jesus already knows what you did.
Of course.
And he's forgiven you.
Of course.
I never believed.
Now you sound like a Protestant. Yeah, we're doing direct conversation here. We don't need you to, bounce it off of, we're not triangulating through a priest. That's why I'm not a priest. I'm not a priest. I'm a minister. I'm one of you guys. I'm one of you guys.
Never.
Yeah.
And I told that to Father O'Connor.
What?
Because
Well,
I said,
What did
first
he
of all,
say?
it's between me
She's
and
here.
God.
right.
And if I want to go receive communion, they're going to refuse me communion? I don't.
That's a sin, in my view.
I do.
Right.
So
It's a
that's how
sin.
I always felt.
Yeah, me
And
too.
he said, Grace, you don't believe in it? Don't do it.
Right.
I will still
Good.
give you one. He
Right.
was great.
Well, I would say to a priest, I would say to my priest, I'll give you my confession, and I'd be waiting for you to give me yours.
Yeah, that's true.
My,
That's true.
my
Sounds
friend's
like her.
mother was housebound, and her husband passed away. And the priest at the beginning of, before communion said, if you haven't made confession in the past
You
week,
gotta go to
you
hell.
can't receive. She was housebound, the priest was too busy to go to her house.
Whole thing's
To
wrong.
hear her.
I mean, is that good? How much good news is that? I mean, come on, you guys.
It shattered.
Come on.
I was like,
Well,
and
there's
she was
so
a
many
good
things
woman.
about it.
Why do they want to keep people in bondage like
Because you want to control them.
They're insecure,
You want to control the masses.
right.
It's not just the church, it's politically.
Yeah,
It's,
it's-
Jesus came to free us. And that people do not like that. Institutions don't like that.
Well, we're a society of being put in a box.
You do what you're told.
And you do what you believe.
and
That's right.
then conform to the system.
That's right.
Well,
It's-
one hopeful thing I heard this week is that a lot of the bishops and cardinals and the leaders of the Catholic Church are coming out
They
very
did it
strongly
already.
on this tyranny that
Yeah.
we're
Facing.
being
Yes.
perpetrated
Yes.
on in
Maniacs.
this country. And they're coming out and telling their people
Yeah,
that this is not right and you need to stop it. We have to stop it.
good.
And at least the churches are stepping up.
it's starting to come
They're
alive.
starting
Yeah.
to come alive.
You can tell,
And I'm
yeah,
thinking, every church should be doing
Yeah.
this.
That's right.
If you're Christian, and that's
Absolutely.
what they're saying.
He's
This
a
is not
liar,
Christ.
he's everything.
Yep.
He's,
This is not Christian, this is not.
he's the devil personified.
Well, he's kind of a dumb devil of,
Oh, he's
you know, I mean,
very
he's
dumb.
not very, he's
And
cunning, but he's not
Yeah.
very smart.
But he,
Well, you don't have to be very smart to be cunning.
no,
You
he's
know.
sick in the head also.
Yeah, he's got other people that are,
He's
Who are you
very
talking
hard.
about?
that would be the,
Trump.
that would be the person that's destroying the White House right now.
Well,
Oh.
there are lots of them doing
Yeah,
that, not
right.
him. I don't even blame him. I blame the party. The party in power
I blame
could
the
stop him. It's the whole country, that's the whole thing.
We should know that.
But anyway,
Anyway,
but
Other than that,
looks
things
more
are going pretty
hopeful, it looks more hopeful that at least
Yeah.
some of them are starting to speak out.
I think there's gonna be a little.
It's about
A
time.
little more level, a higher level of, violence.
Oh, I think so,
Before it happens.
definitely, yeah.
Before it's over.
Oh, that's
Before
what
it's
he
over.
wants, that's what he's doing.
Yeah, yeah.
And I cannot
We're gonna have
believe
violence.
when they say, you know, like they're so shocked. I know why he's doing all this. He
Of course.
doesn't want to admit that he's part of Epstein's group.
Right.
And so
Well, and-
he'll do anything he can.
And money and power.
It's
Oh,
money.
That's the big thing.
He's sick in the